Folks, today I'm going to talk to you about the method behind the madness. Fear is something that affects us all greatly, sometimes in similar ways and sometimes in very, very different ways. Many of us actually hide from fear. We don't like to approach it. It's not something that comes naturally to many of us. And in fact, as some of our other speakers have talked about, we quite often find ways to hide from it. When I was a young girl, I used to be painfully shy. And when I say painful, I mean I can remember the burning sensation that started at my toes and worked its way up my face in embarrassment at being anywhere near the center of attention in a room. I was petrified at being noticed, and I really did not want to be anywhere near that type of attention. I remember actually coming up with very creative ways to actually avoid it because I was so afraid. On one occasion, for example, when I was threatened with having to do a solo choir audition, I cannot sing, by the way, I made a very convincing vomit from Campbell's chicken soup. It worked. I managed to avoid having to do that. But fear is something that you can't let limit your life, and many of us do. It's something that each of us can take very personally, and quite often, as one of our earlier speakers said, it's something that locks us in and limits our own potential. I remember not really knowing this and not realizing that I was allowing fear to do exactly that to me. And I remember the one occasion whenever I did actually realize that that's exactly what was happening, and that's exactly what I was allowing fear to do to my career. I attended an event, and a speaker that was actually on before me had surveyed all of the ladies in the audience. It was an International Women's Day event. And at that event, she asked the question beforehand of all of the ladies attending, how many of you have not gone for a job prospect because of fear? How many of you have not applied because of your gender? Now, at that stage in my life, I had managed to overcome fear. I didn't know when, and I didn't know how. I didn't even realize that I had. But at that time, I remember scoffing and thinking, oh, no way. Nobody would do that. Nobody would not go for a job because they were afraid. Nobody would not go for a job because of their gender. But to my surprise, the majority of the women in that audience said actually, yes, they hadn't gone for jobs because of their gender. And in speaking with the women that day and talking to them, and because I had been a speaker myself, they opened up a lot to me. And I learned very quickly that a lot of those women that I spoke to, and many of them peers, many of them in very high-powered jobs now, but the majority of them said that they had actually let fear limit their careers and limit how they progressed in life. And all of a sudden I realized, well, what's wrong with me? Why is that? Why do I not think like that? Is there something wrong with me? And very quickly I thought, well, no, it's not something that's wrong with me. It's just that I think differently. But how and why? And what if you can use fear in a way that actually promotes you? What if you can turn fear on its head and use it to really boost yourself? When I was younger, my early career was actually in retail. And I managed shops for a living. Now, it was a very comfortable career choice for me. I'd gone to university, but I had worked my way through university to be able to afford it. I worked in retail. So this was a comfortable step for me. To be honest, I didn't apply for the marketing roles that I wanted because I was afraid that I would fail. I didn't feel that I had enough experience, which is something that's quite common with many people. I was afraid of failing in those marketing jobs and in those interviews, so I didn't do it. Instead, I applied for a graduate retail trainee course. And I stayed in retail for about 4.5 years. Now, I loved retail. I'm very passionate about retail. I loved the buzz. It was fast-paced. It was just the type of environment that really excited me, and I loved all of that opportunity. But I wasn't fulfilled. There was something that just wasn't fulfilling about that career for me. I wanted to do more. I wanted to be more creative. And the old thoughts of marketing came back into my head again. But at that time, I had a house, I had a mortgage, I had a car. I couldn't just up sticks and leave retail. And then I saw a poster. And that poster told me about a graduate trainee course that was available at a store in London, much, much bigger store, flagship store. And I had the opportunity to go there and use my creativity and do all of this stuff. And so I waited for my area manager to visit the store a few weeks later because the poster said that I really should speak through this with my area manager. And I asked her for a quick chat. And I sat down excitedly and I told her about my thoughts and about how I wanted to progress my career and, I wanted to really push things. And she sat me down and she said, "Jill, do you need a brain transplant? What you need is to get pregnant and settle yourself down." That was the point in my career that I didn't change. In fact, that was the point that I let career limit me even further. However, it only limited me for a very, very short period of time. Because up until that point, I was the only one that limited my career. And how dare she try and limit my career for me? So very quickly, the depression that I had about that conversation and the despondency about that was very quickly replaced with anger. How dare she? Nobody else. I'm the only person allowed to limit my career and limit myself. And then I realized, well, why am I doing that? Now, fortuitously, I actually had a chance meeting with another acquaintance that week. And that week, I told her about what had happened. And she said to me, "Jill, there's an opportunity for you to go back to university. There's a course that I know of that you could do. It's for women. It's fully funded. And you could go and do that course, but it's full time." And immediately the fear came back in. I can't do that. I have a house, I have a mortgage, I have a car payment. How on earth can I do that? Now, from one extreme at the start of that week to the end of that week, where I had one person try to impose their fear and limit my career, I had another person hold me up and say, "Hang on, Jill, you're limiting this. You can do this, and I'll show you how." And what she did for me was she almost held my hand through the process. She explained to me that, yes, I would have to get another job. Yes, I would have to work extra overtime to allow me to do this. But she focused me on that goal. And that goal was changing my career into something that I would be more fulfilled by. But to do that, I had to put the work in. And I had to put my neck on the line and really follow my instincts and face the fear of not being able to pay my mortgage and pay my car payment. But to do that, she showed me how to prepare. She showed me how to look at my finances. And I slowly took steps that week. And the following week, I handed my notice in and I started at university. Now, that was the first step towards my career. But I very quickly realized that actually that was a massive fear. And once I got into this way and into the swing of things, I realized that actually I had faced that fear and had overcome it. And that gave me a little bit of courage. It gave me the courage to go on and fulfill and see that through to the end. And that resulted in me actually getting a career and being able to have a fulfilling career and one that I chose, and one that I chose that I didn't put limits on. But what it also did at that time was change how I look at fear. And instead of allowing fear to continue to limit me, I started to do things in a similar way as I had been shown and in a similar pattern. I would challenge myself and I would face fears. I would prepare and I would work towards a goal. But what I then found I did, which was quite strange, I was going through a particularly difficult personal period of life, and I had a bit of a knocking. And I decided that I needed more personal resilience. I decided that I needed to be braver, I needed to be mentally stronger. And so I did what any sane person would do. No, I didn't run and hide. Instead, I took up white-collar boxing. And I got into a boxing ring, and I fought. Now, that was something that was petrifying to me. In fact, it was petrifying to most people that knew me because they just thought this shy young girl is going to get a hammering here. But it was something that I did because I felt if I can do this, then I can do anything. And so what I found I did was I got myself into these patterns where if I had a fear in one area of my life, I picked a fear in another area and I faced it. I fought it. And that gave me the empowerment that I needed to actually switch that fear in its head. It allowed me to look at the fear and do it anyway. And so what if you were to face your fears? What if there was a way of retraining your brain to allow you to face those fears, to deal with those fears, and to come out the other end a stronger and a better person without limits on your career? Well, there is a way, and that's the method behind my madness. Thank you.